Hey y'all, what's up? It's Amanda and I am back with another video. So today's video is actually going to be my February wrap up, and I have, I believe, like 8 books to share with you or something like that. I read quite a bit in February. So without further ado, let's get right on into the video. So I wanted to switch things up a little bit, and I wanted to go over some stats, some reading stats for y'all, because I know I just kind of jump right into the books and my reviews on them, but today we're doing something a little different. So the app that I'm using to track my stats is the Story Graph. So I always have my socials linked in the description down below. So I have the Story Graph, Goodreads, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. So follow me or friend me on those if you want to see my reading, what I'm posting, what I'm enjoying, stuff like that. So I read 8 books this month, which totaled to 2,277 pages. It also says that I read 0 hours via audiobook, but that's not true. I listened to most of my books in tandem, like physically and with the audiobook. So it's really probably like a lot of hours that I'm listening to an audiobook. The moods, my top moods were emotional, lighthearted, funny, and adventurous. Pace. I had 63% of my books were medium paced, which equals to 5 of the books that I read were medium paced. And then 38% were fast paced, which equals 3 of the books that I read were fast paced. Page number, 5 books were less than 300 pages, and 3 books were 300 to 499 pages long. For fiction and nonfiction, one of my goals this year is to try and keep my nonfiction at around 20% of my reads. So this past month, I read 75% fiction, which was 6 books, and then 25% nonfiction, which was 2 books. My top genres were romance, where I read 5 romance books. Then it was LGBTQIA, which was 4. And then tied for the next one is young adult, graphic novel, fantasy, and contemporary, where I had 2 books for each of those genres. I read 5 of my owned books. I had 2 library books and 1 ARC. I don't count the ARCs as an owned book because it's just an e-ARC that eventually like expires. So I don't really own it. And it's not a physical thing, it's like a digital thing. So I'm tracking my physical books that I own. So format, 13% was digital, which was the 1 book that I read that was an e-ARC. And then 88% was print. Just kind of accurate. Like I also had a lot of audiobooks, which when I read a book physically and with the audiobook, I normally mark it as a physical book that I read, not the audiobook. So just know that I did listen to a lot of audiobooks this past month as well. And my star ratings, my average rating was a 4.25. I have a variety of different ratings that I gave this past month, but overall my star ratings were pretty good. The lowest rating that I gave was a 3-star, and the highest was a 5-star, so pretty good. And yeah, that's it. So I'm going to go in the order that I read these books. The first book that I finished this month was In the Weeds by B.K. Borison. This book, I believe I gave like a 3.5 or 3.75. It was really fun. I really enjoyed the book, and the characters were really fun to follow. I enjoyed this way more than I enjoyed Love Light Farms, which is the first book in this series. This follows the farmer that we met in Love Light Farms, as well as a social media influencer that we met in Love Light Farms. They have a little romance, and it was amazing. I loved it. There was just a couple qualms that I had. Like, the 3rd act conflict was not my fave. It was kind of like miscommunication trope, which I don't really enjoy, but the way that it played out, I was like, okay, I can see how this makes sense, but still not my fave. Next, I read Heartstopper Volume 5 by Alice Oseman. This, oh my goodness, what do I say about this? I love Nick and Charlie, and this was just a fun read. They basically took the next step in their relationship physically as well as emotionally. They're dealing with, like, Nick is applying to colleges or universities and just dealing with that rift in their relationship. Not that it was a huge rift, but just like that challenge. And yeah, I loved it. 5 stars. Amazing. I always love Heartstopper. It's always a good time. Next, I read ACOTAR by Sarah J. Maas. This was my first time reading ACOTAR, or A Court of Thorns and Roses, and I had such a fun time with this. I believe I gave this like a 4 or like a 4.25. Really enjoyed it. I thought it was really interesting, really gripping. I love Feyre and all the challenges that she had to go through. Very interesting. I love the political kind of like machinations or whatever. Just the whole political alliances that were present, as well as how morally gray these characters are. Really good. Really, I'm loving it. Another book that I read, which I forgot to mention in the beginning, was I read March Volume 3 by John Lewis. And that book was really good. It was the conclusion to the March graphic novel series, and it just is like an autobiographical graphic novel series about John Lewis's life as a civil rights leader and activist, and as it parallels his time in the 60s during the civil rights movement, as well as the inauguration of Barack Obama in 2009. So I really like that aspect of it, and I believe I gave it like a 4.5 stars. Really good. I highly recommend that you read March. It was such a fun time. Not fun, but I learned a lot. You know what I mean? And it's a graphic novel series, so I love seeing the graphics and like the illustrations. A good time. I also wanted to mention here that I read an e-arc that I mentioned in my stats, but I'm not going to be disclosing the title or my star rating because it is a St. Martin's Press title, and in solidarity with like the boycott of St. Martin's Press, I'm just not going to be talking about it or reviewing it right now. But yeah, so while we're doing that, I also read Under the Smoke-Strewn Sky by A. Deborah Baker. This was the conclusion to the Up and Under series by A. Deborah Baker. This is a pen name for Seanan McGuire. So if you read Middle Game by Seanan McGuire, you will know that throughout the book there are little quotes from this series called The Up and Under. And it's by a fake author named A. Deborah Baker. So Seanan McGuire just decided to write the series that she referenced in Middle Game. So this was the final book in that series, and I thought it was good. I had a fun time with it. It was a solid 4-star read. I thought it was a solid conclusion to the series as a whole, and there were some parts that I saw coming and some parts that I didn't see coming. So all in all, I recommend that you read this series if you like reading more of Seanan McGuire's work and you want more content from her. Second to last is Milk Fed by Melissa Broder. This book is wild. Like, honestly, I don't even know how to describe this to you, but I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I gave it 5 stars. So this book follows Rachel as she deals with her relationship with her mother, as well as, trigger warning, but she has an eating disorder that she's dealing with, as well as she is a lesbian, or I don't know if she identifies as a lesbian or bisexual, but she is queer, basically. And she engages in this relationship with a woman who isn't necessarily out. And so it's about their relationship, and then Rachel's relationship with her mother, her relationship with her own body, and it's just like a wild ride. I had such an interesting time with this. I wouldn't say it was fun. It was fun at times, it was weird at times, and I just really enjoyed all that it had to say. I gave this 5 stars. And lastly, I want to go over my TBR jar, or TBR mug, whatever you want to call it. I pulled out for the month of February This Book is Gay by Juno Dawson. I don't know if you can read that. Whatever. So the last book that I finished was This Book is Gay by Juno Dawson. And this book was interesting. Ultimately, I gave this a 3 stars. I think it is a good introduction to queerness and being gay. And it does highlight some things that are worthwhile to know as a person in the LGBTQ community. They try to be very inclusive with what they talk about. It was overall very informative, but I gave it a 3 because it is not necessarily something that I needed, because a lot of the things I knew about already, but there were some things that I did learn about. And B, it was very like of its time. I believe this was written in 2014, and it keeps referencing like pop culture moments from 2014, and it kind of made me cringe a little bit. It was trying to be relatable to like teens, and I get that, but in doing so, it aged it, because 2014 was 10 years ago. So yeah, that's my thoughts. These are most of my February reads. I don't have some physically with me because they were from the library, but these are the ones I own. And I had such a fun reading month. Like I said, my overall average rating for the month was like a 4 point something, which is really good in my opinion. So yeah. It's also a very colorful stack, and I think it kind of like goes together. There's like oranges and reds. Leave a comment down below with your favorite read from February, and also let me know any book recommendations you have for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like this video if you liked it. Follow me on all my socials linked in the description, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye.